So I'm going to introduce Liam while he gets set up, and with as well our final speaker for the evening. Science fiction and logistics are not normally two words we think of together, but the history of speculative megastructures, at least in architecture, is one in which they've been bound for quite some time. Megastructures, domed or discontiguous as they may be, were architecture's version of speculative design avant la lettre. They have been a way to make sense of planetary scales and non-local integrations. They've extruded diagrammatic plans of utopian society into domed sections. And they've been from Exodus to No Stop City to Continuous Monument to Biosphere 2 to Google, a figure of social totality, both social and ecological. Now, besides the role of hard science slash science fiction and its importance for our Anthropocenic urbanism, Liam and I share an interest also in the discontiguity of the megastructures in which we now are based. Not big buildings we can stand inside, but big, complex, adaptive systems that we try to map and model. Their choreography also piles on dangerous effects. And this is all the more reason to commandeer... All good? Liam, yeah? Okay, good. You want to know if I have to talk slower to spend more time? Yeah. To commandeer the... all the more reason to commandeer the algorithmic coding and zoning machines toward better outcomes. Yesterday, as I was discussed with Rem, it's in the data centers and distribution warehousing zones and ports and crop fields and energy farms where the logistical sublime of algorithmic urbanism has reshaped the built environment, perhaps most decisively. And even as these places serve huge metropolitan populations, they may be manned by lean crews of technicians and service staff, itinerant and not. This doesn't diminish the factors like energy or access. To the contrary, they come to the fore in ways they would not if this architecture were designed only as stages for little human dramas. Among the very best directors of such portfolios, and really in many ways the inheritor of the mantle of those earlier speculative megastructures for a different media age, is Liam Young, who has helped guided our program towards the charter stack scenarios you've seen, splicing the cinematic and the urban. Liam will headline our event because, as you'll understand shortly, no one would want to follow him on the bill. Liam is an architect who also runs the MA in Fiction and Entertainment at SCI-Arc, who hosted our program and taught most recently the AA and Princeton in London. He's the founder of Tomorrow's Thoughts Today, the London-based design think tank, and also of the Unknown Fields division, which sets off on many unlikely but successful expeditions hither and yon. My pleasure, Liam.
Thanks. Respect to the... You need to turn it back on so I can see it, man. Huh? Yeah. I gotta do this. See? And then that. All right. Respect to the hardcore crew that are sticking it out. The smaller the crowd, the bigger the history, they say. You're the lucky ones. I'm aware I'm the last thing that stands between you and a cold drink or a warm bed or a hot body. And apologies to the translator for what's about to happen. What I'm going to do tonight is narrate for you a series of documented moments, stories, and vignettes of a world that isn't for us anymore. A city that has left us behind, a city in which we no longer belong, a city, or a city symphony perhaps, that's stitched together from documentary footage of real sites that we've visited with Unknown Fields, the nomadic research studio I run with Kate Davies from London, or short speculative fragments that I develop out of my own urban futures practice. And what we're going to do is see the city tonight through the eyes of the machines that now occupy it. This, for example, is how a driverless taxi sees the city, as these 3D point clouds generated by laser scanners. And together we're going to jump in the back seat of this taxi and head off on a safari, and the city operating system is riding shotgun. And we're going to travel through an atlas of the sites that form this city, and we're going to travel from the city center and to see ourselves and the strange creatures that we've become. So here we are in this driverless taxi, and the OS is sitting beside us, and it smells of hard drives and fiber optics and Red Bull soda. And the electric motor hums and we rumble on quietly. And while we all weren't watching, the city has been silently changing. It's been getting smarter. It's been getting tickled with technology. It's been remaking itself for someone other than us. And the OS has invited us on this road trip across its digital skin. And it's looking forward to showing us around, to visit the sites and structures made for and by its machines. I'm going to start at its edges, and then we're going to travel deep into its center to say hello to ourselves. And this is where we start, where we look up from our taxi and see above us, drifting at 6,711 miles an hour, a delicate and intricate creation. Dancing with gravity is a Google Earth satellite, and through its optical technologies, this hurtling bird of reflecting panels and heat shields and nanomaterials look down on the Earth and tiles together this digital map of its surface. It's a data territory that binds these landscapes together, a site that we all in some way now drift through. So at the resolution of these maps that constitute so much of our world, a pixel is less than 0.5 meter in scale, which means it's just a bit bigger than the width of our bodies. At this scale, we're just a discoloration or a dead pixel thoroughly embedded in the grain of technology and indistinguishable from the city and the landscape that surrounds us. And as we keep on driving, the OS points out a structure from the window. And in the distance, we can make out the tracery of markings scored across its surface. It's not evidence of some ancient tribal culture, but these are the traces of the new tribes of the digital, the animal tracks of the orbiting machines above. So this is a satellite calibration target, a machine vision graphic that's tattooed onto the ground of the Earth, a fiducial pattern created to give satellite-mounted cameras something on which to calibrate their lenses. And the skin of the world is this digital test pattern. And like a cave painting, they're the primitive markings of a new culture firmly on the rise. As we keep on driving, we see through a gap in the point cloud mist some of the landscapes where these technologies start to begin their lives. And we drive along the azure shores of the energy pools. And through the eyes of the drone, we see our technology splayed out before us. And from the ground, it's just a white mound of soil. But from above the earth, it comes alive with the colors of lithium electricity. And through Chile and Bolivia, a land no longer of indigenous populations, but of evaporation ponds. And we see the world's largest lithium mines. And this is the landscape behind the scenes of all the batteries that power our technology, where 70% of the world's lithium is. And on a stage in California, Elon Musk, tech evangelist and entrepreneur, proclaims his vision for a green future, a world where everything will be solar in 20 years. And unlike most Silicon Valley preachers, he's presenting a seductive future, a hopeful future, but at the same time, one that is decidedly uncomplicated. And in this landscape, we see Elon Musk, who must literally now buy Bolivia and evolve it as a new Dubai. And if the future is electric, if the future is Elon Musk and his Tesla-fueled dreams, then the future is buried here, beneath the salt flats of Bolivia. And we drive deeper, and we visit the cavernous landscapes of our ephemeral technologies. And it's in these massive mining excavations scattered on the edge of the world that our new robot reality finds so much of its seed. And we each have a little bit of the gold or aluminium from these sites in our pockets, charged and quietly vibrating. And the digital models of these landscapes are now linked live to the fluctuations of metal prices on the stock market. So as the explosives and diggers have replaced the slow erosion of rivers and earthquakes, we're now scoring our economy into the archaeological record, a chronicle of the digital permutations that now drive the modern world. And in this landscape, we see vehicles just like ours, with no drivers, but just systems. And mining trucks rumble up mountains, and tractors carve soil along GPS trails generated by the orbiting bodies above. And we drive deeper into the dust, and we see the rhythms of the human conveyor belt in Madagascar. And these digging machines excavate the majority of the world's precious gemstones. In these illegal mines, it's cheaper to pay 20 men in rice than it is to maintain and fuel a mechanical conveyor belt. And a hidden black market supply chain connects two choreographies, this lawless mine site to the jewelry stores, hip-hop music videos, and celebrity red carpets across the ocean in the center of our cities. So for the jewelry of the post-Anthropocene, we've used the amount of rice this human conveyor belt consumes in a day to manufacture a single synthetic gemstone, where the rice is subjected to intense heat and pressure in a Russian lab to produce a diamond for a gold hip-hop tooth, an object that embodied the systems to which these worlds are intimately and profoundly connected. And now, the driverless taxi rolls up to the shores of the radioactive lake in Inner Mongolia that sits beside the world's largest rare earth mineral refinery. And we take a selfie with our phones, and we see our reflection in the mirrored screen, because the material to polish its glass and run its software produces this very lake. And collapsed together in this single luminous surface, we see ourselves and this black earth. And from this sludge, we've made a vase for the machines to thank them for showing us around. It's a set of vases made from the amount of waste created in the production of 3 objects: an iPhone, a laptop, and a Tesla electric car battery. It's a Ming vase for the AI generation. And now we travel to visit the real human machines of the city, orchestrated by efficiency algorithms. These are the real robots of our new landscapes of technology, where the body is matched in speed to the conveyor belt that turns in front of it. This is us in this world where every meaningful moment can somehow be counted and measured. And these are the architectures behind the screen and beyond the fog of the cloud. These are the physical outputs of so many of our digital engagements with the world. And this is the landscape of everything. And now we drive along the aisles of Facebook machines, past all our messages, photos, inane chatter, hopes, dreams, and desires, and darkest fears. The electric car motors have given way to the whir of cooling fans. It's not a grand cathedral, it's not a great library, but at a time when our collective history is digital. This is our generation's cultural legacy. And perhaps we will soon write soliloquies for the server aisles like we once did for rolling hills, and couples steam up the windows parked in the artificial moonlight of vast data complexes, and power plant fog hangs heavy in the air and it looms like storm clouds, and we picnic under the sodium glow of a row of artificial suns. And we drive on and we follow the fiber and we visit the robots of the renderlands. In the design studios of the West, architects, developers, and directors sketch out their designs for imaginary cities. And in India, connected by the network across the other side of the planet, a massive anonymous workforce turn these wireframe worlds into the high-fidelity digital architectures of developer renderings, video games, and Hollywood blockbusters. We meet Prakash, a render farm worker, who has fallen in love with the digital model of a beautiful Hollywood actress after spending 14 hours a day endlessly rotoscoping, rendering, and compositing her into blockbuster films. He is lovingly airbrushed across every pore of her face, every strand of her hair, as he erases the stunt wires and 3D models her superhero silhouette, scene by scene, frame by frame, day by day. And by night, when the fluorescents are switched off and everyone else has gone home, he straps his VR goggles on and walks hand in hand with her through the streets of a city as collaged together from the scavenged VFX models and leftover 3D game assets that remain on Indian studio hard drives after a studio production is cancelled. Fashioned from real crowdsourced dreams of render farm workers and the models they've given us, it's a utopia that exists in the thickness of the screen, a virtual city that stretches from Los Angeles to Bangalore, a world of corporate aspirations, architectural imaginaries, demolished landmarks, alien invasions, and our outsourced, pixel-projected dreams. And as we travel across this pixel sea of digital artifacts, we're like explorers in this strange new land, and the OS tells us of a tall, salty tale.
This is about the Sandy Island mystery that was in the Sydney Morning Herald. Sandy Island was actually found on Google Earth.
So just off the coast of Sandy Island is a collection of dark pixels, GPS coordinates, hyperlinks, and stories. Originally charted by the whaling ship Velocity in 1876, the island has long been an evidence-doubtful landmass. It was a place perhaps originally recorded to help with the map's copyright, or a mislabeled pile of volcanically ejected pumice that was seen drifting on the horizon. But this cartographic apparition remained visible in the models of the city until an Australian research vessel confirmed its non-existence during a 2012 expedition to survey the ocean floor. And up until that point, to a world of Google explorers and hyperlink adventurers, this island was just as real as any other place they might visit online. And if the places and spaces exist solely in the mediums through which we experience them, then perhaps they become just as real as any other. And when it's the machines that do the looking, then these digital geographies become new and occupiable. A geography with a hashtag, buildings of coordinates, fading in and out. And our journey through the atlas of the machine world is taking us across the planet through landscapes at the scale of the pixel, the reflecting landscapes at the scale of canyons and continents. And our technologies cast these shadows that stretch across the earth. And we pack up all the objects and materials produced in these sites, and we send them off in ships around the world, and we follow the computer-controlled container fleet that now navigates autonomously based on GPS satellites. And the ship captain and the portside crane operators have been made obsolete. and soon to be the busiest shipping lane on the planet, the cities of the Arctic coast stand empty, filled with the unmanned beasts of global trade. A lone engineer and her dog heads back from a maintenance run, like a lighthouse keeper, just her, the horizon, and the creaking cranes. Her body repurposed as a component in the landscape-scaled robot that stacks the containers ready for transport, bringing our goods all the way home. And we follow the cargo, and now stretching out before us is the endless shelves and storage bins of the Amazon Fulfillment Center. And the Amazon bookshelves are stacked based on a complex sorting algorithm engineered around sales frequencies and buying patterns. And we watch as Amazon robots rush through the stacks, navigating from book to book, filling the most efficient route generated for them by their navigational programming. And in a way, this is the library of the machine city. It's not organized around the Dewey Decimal System, but by buying habits and aggregated data sets. It's a library that isn't organized for us, but organized around algo logics and inhabited by bodies repurposed as machines. And we follow the Amazon Prime drone that's zipping about above us as it drops packages around us in an Amazon hailstorm. And drifting above this sea of logistics haze, the drones have become ubiquitous as pigeons. And we're told they deliver our pizzas, and they walk all the dogs in the city. Think of the time saving, the OS says. And we watch as a network of drones monitor the wayward youth of a London council estate. We watch as a young girl has hacked and decorated her own drone and uses it to pass notes to her boyfriend trapped in the tower opposite. And like kids passing notes in an old-fashioned classroom, they scribble messages on the drone and send it back and forth between the towers. And in this city, the drones form both agents of state surveillance. But for these two, they also become co-opted as the aerial vehicles through which two teens might fall in love. And another drone, armed just with a dildo, disrupts a Russian parliamentary session. And another zips overhead en route to attack a village in a country half a world away. And we're sharing our world with living objects that listen, watch, and talk back. Questionable relationships of mutual forgetting.
A South Korean woman got a rude awakening when she left her robot vacuum to do the cleaning while she took a nap. The vacuum cleaner reportedly mistook the woman for dust, locked onto her hair and tried to suck it up. The vacuum suction was far from gentle, and wrenched the woman from her slumber. The woman's hair then became entangled in the cleaning device. The woman, who has not been named, was unable to free herself and called the fire department with a desperate rescue plea.
And Heinz was forced to apologize after QR code on a ketchup bottle linked to a hardcore porn site. Daniel Correll scanned the label to read about the latest recipe promotion, but was instead directed to German porn site Fundorado. And when we turn off this augmented world, the bespoke billboards of Minority Report's urban spaces, and the tailored ads, the Tinder profiles, the navigational prompts, and the track status updates of our sci-fi cityscapes, we'll see a green screen studio where everything has become a screen. And in a way, this is the physical world left behind when everything disappears into the lens of Google Glass or Oculus Rift. And perhaps modern film studios are an analogy for the rest of this atlas, a new kind of architecture, a new type of ornament based on calibration crosshairs and targets, stripped back to become the scaffolds and infrastructure for a digitally constructed world. An architecture that is lying in wait, ready for the premiere of 1 million animated movies that will illuminate its surface with color, detail. And the city is filled with the digital confetti of our desired worlds projected just for us. And in a way, this is the future that technology has promised us, where the occupation of space is now reimagined on individual scales, and we each are tuned to our own architectural channel.
Escape from it all, Linda Lewis. John Anderton.
Forget your troubles with Blue.
John Anderton.
And as we keep driving, we come to an augmented apartment in Athens, and an agent shows a client around a construction site. So, okay, what were you thinking? Asked the agent, as a Google search box appears behind the door. So we've got Bauhaus and Vitra Herman Miller, Johnny Ive, she intoned as a series of bentwood, lacquered, steel-tubed, and increasingly insectoid pieces of furniture scrolled down the wall. No, not that. Something more flat, he said. Oh, okay, well, we've got some lovely 21st century textures as well. Early Floyd, classic Tilco, or for something really special, I can offer you one of our IKEA packs. Very eclectic, very tasteful, 100% uncustomized. And the daybed winked out of existence to be replaced by a set of side tables in primary colors and a rectangular bookcase. Ooh, lax, he said. And a billy, he exclaimed. Ah, I can see that sir is a connoisseur, she said. And the agent tapped some more buttons, and a series of blonde wood and laminate objects appear around the space. A low Japanese-style bed overlaid the couch, and he sank down into it, and his eyes gleamed. And we leave him behind, and we jump back in our taxi for one last ride, and we hear a dull roar fill the cabin of the car. I wind down a window, and I can hear the audience in the distance screaming and going wild. Hatsune is a 3D projection with a larger fan base than most living musicians. Have you ever been to a Hatsune Miku concert? The OS says. She's the pop star of our generation, a pop star for the machine world. And the crowd wave their glow sticks for a digital ghost of the city. And Hatsune is the first animated pop star, and just like the Kardashians, the Hiltons, and the vloggers and Instagram stars, she has no real physical presence. She's just a media construction, an agglomeration of pixels. And to the beat of Hatsune's hologram, the young ravers of the machine city dance with explosive contortions as they invent a new choreography that distorts the silhouette and disguises the proportions of their frame so as to evade body detection algorithms used by the city surveillance cameras. And they do makeup using the gloss black mirrors on their dead screens, and they reimagine their fashion cycles to follow the rate of Moore's law, the latest software update, rather than a change in season. And they adorn themselves in new camouflage textiles, a new hoodie that's designed to be invisible to the scanning technologies of the smart city. And their iridescent textiles reflect the light of CCTV laser scanners, creating exuberant glitches and distortions. and they hacked the city, searching for the wilds beyond the machine and the slippery spaces between the data points. And at the end of our tour, we see Hello World burning on the screen. A Hello World program is a computer routine that outputs Hello World onto a display. A super simple program that's used to verify that everything's operating correctly, that everything is going to be just fine. It's a first word spoken by a new system. And the machines, though, they never gave us this warning. This is the new nature creeping, and in a way it's already here, hiding in plain sight. And we weren't sure when it arrived, but we certainly aren't going to let it leave. It's just too seductive, too shiny, too elusive. And the city, once publicly elected, has disappeared into the fog of the cloud. And it's in these landscapes that we see our new world being born. A world where there is no city or country, just a continuous condition, either served or servicing. A city everywhere. And this is the design problem of our generation, where we encounter and imagine relational objects, objects that coalesce like clouds out of these systems, and we design the shadows cast by our technologies. New designers and new agents operating within contexts that in many ways are not for us. And my watch tells me about a coffee machine it just met. And the city wraps us in a warm embrace, and the LEDs blink and the cooling fans spin, and the streets aligned with sensors, and the electromagnetics hum, and it smells like it's going to rain, and our faces are bright in the rolling glow of a rectangular screen aurora. In the future, everything will be smart, connected, and make it all better. In the future, everything will be smart, connected, and make it all better.
In the future, everything will be smart, connected, and make it all better.
In the future, everything will be smart, connected, and make it all better.
In the future, everything will be smart, connected, and make it all better. In